We're back again one more time for another one box Commander Building Challenge. Very, very excited. Thank you first and foremost again for all of the support on the last video and with the channel. It has been absolutely awesome. If you didn't catch the last one, we did Commander Masters. We're ratcheting up the difficulty here just a tad with a different set today. I don't have the box in front of me because I'm going to be honest with you, I opened it already. So pretty good pool. Looking forward to sharing that with you. We're going to jump in Modern Horizons 2 Draft Booster Box. So should be a ton of fun. And we do this for fun. I want to say that up front. So we'll see what we can put together. We'll see if we can make at least a viable and usable Commander deck out of our pools. And yeah, excited to jump into it. I am also going to share, if you're watching this on the day that it goes up, we will have some Final Fantasy openings coming up here very soon. And there's a good chance we might do a little one box challenge with Final Fantasy as well. We're still waiting for some of our Commander decks. We didn't get all of them, but we got a couple. So we're going to showcase those, maybe do some upgrade guides as well. So if you're interested in that, let me know down in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get to cracking some packs and let's see where we land with the build. Let's get to it. All right, here we go. Modern Horizons 2 Draft Boosters. I freaking love this set. We have had really, really good luck with this set over the times that we have opened it up on the channel. Awesome cards inside of this, and should be pretty fun. Should make for a pretty interesting one box challenge here. Now these are the old boxes, the old goodies with all the packs in. We don't get shortchanged on this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it. Draft boosters, here we go. Love this set. Would love to open this first pack. Uh-oh. Hello. We'll get there one way or another. It's sticky. There we go. So we'll move pretty quickly through commons and uncommons. We'll keep an eye out for some good stuff. Hunting pack and a first pack Solitude. That's pretty cool. That's a good start. That's a nice little start to get things rocking and rolling here. Pretty good, pretty good. Mythic action. Now this set is also going to be probably pretty good in terms of mana. Ooh, nice little Profane Tutor. That's good. Nice little pull. Oil Blacksmith's Skill. So that should be pretty nice. We shouldn't have too many concerns with that because we'll have the multicolored lands. We have some fetchies we would hope to see in this as well. Abundant Harvest. Timeless Dragon. Next rare. We do need to keep our eye out for the legendary creatures, of course. These packs are old and should not be this hard to open. Holy moly. Bidding and address down. Jeez. cannot. I don't know what is up with these. All right, mine collapse. Late to dinner. Should have no problem with removal here. How about a karmic guide? Oh, look at that. Little inevitable betrayal. That's cool. Retro frame. We're gonna need to find some legendary creatures. Now, I am sure there are a handful here, so not too big of a deal. We have seen mine collapse at the front of these packs a whole lot. I'm pretty sure we've seen all of the multicolored lands already. Okay, artifact creature, Brea's Apprentice. What am I doing here? I'm all over the place. And a late to dinner. Okay, we're gonna just go easy mode for the rest of these. Reaver. Goblin Bombardment. Legendary artifact creature. Zabaz. So that is an option for us. I actually looked at potentially doing an artifact build. Could actually be kind of fun. That gives us access to 2 colors as well, so that could be a good option early here. We've seen red cards in the front of these packs a whole lot. It's been a lot of mine collapse, but... counter spell. How about a Cauldron Complete? That's cool. And a Foily Recalibrate. Seriously, has every pack been red in the front? Crazy. How about a Shardless Agent? There we go. There's an Elder Dragon. Piru, the Volatile. Flying Lifelink. You can sacrifice it unless you pay 3. When it dies, it deals 7 damage to each non-legendary creature. Wow, little built-in board wipe there. Little built-in board wipe. How about that? Elder Dragon, pretty cool. Could be some interesting colors for sure. Gaia's Will. Getting close to the first third done. Couple cool hits. Like to see a Solitude. How about a Sithis? Harvest Hand. That's certainly an option. And a Foily. Break the Ice. Yeah, Sithis could be an interesting one. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain a life, draw a card. That's pretty good. See that being pretty good. Certainly something we could build around. That's another strong contender. There's another red card up front. How about a Cabal Coffers? Wow, look at this pack. Look at this freaking pack. Coffers and an Esper Sentinel all in one. Wow. Wow. What a pack. Thank you, Modern Horizons 2. That's a good way to finish the first third of the box. That is a good way to finish. 4 mythics. Or 3 mythics, excuse me. That's some good hits right there. That is pretty sick. That's pretty sick. Listen, as much as I like doing this one box challenge, the first one was a ton of fun. I also really enjoy opening packs, especially when the packs are good. How about an upheaval and a nettle cyst? Having some good artifacts certainly is going to help, not only from a mana fixing standpoint, but some good equipment. There's pretty good equipment in this. Wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a box. What a box. Hello, Mr. Monkey Pirate Man. Now, he is also a legendary creature. We'll put him in the little hit pile here, because that's pretty cool. Oh, the mythics. Our Commander Masters box. If you didn't go watch that video, go check it out. The box was very similar to this one. It had some fire, absolutely fire hits in it. It was amazing. Imperial Recruiter, very cool. And Sanctifier and Vec. Seeing a lot of pretty good white. Pretty good red. So again, Zabaz feels like, or even Piru. That could be the build around as well. Definitely some powerful stuff. White, white definitely feels like a color we want to be in initially here. Chitter Spitter! I have this in my Squirrels deck. Great card. I do have a Chatterfang Commander deck. Who doesn't love making a bunch of squirrels? Doing a whole bunch of fun stuff. This box has gotten beaten around a little bit. The top left corners of a lot of these front cards have been a little dinged up. How about a Shardless Agent and a Rise and Shine? Kind of see. It's like the first. It's really that top left corner of a lot of the cards, but the closer to the front of the pack, the worse off it seems to be. That's not a surprise. This box is old. I love me some Bottle Gnomes. Okay. Yusri, Fortune's Flame. Whenever it attacks, choose a number we want to fly. Flip that many coins. For each flip you win, draw a card. For each flip you lose, deals 2 damage to you. If you won 5 flips, you may cast spells from your hand this turn without paying their mana cost. That could be an interesting one. Could be a really fun commander. Be a really fun option. Pretty cheap. 3 CMC as well. It's a 2/3 flyer, so it does have a little bit of evasion as well. That's something that we can look to build around. Terminal Agony. Bone Shredder. How about Inevitable Betrayal? This time, normal. It's a normal, regular frame betrayal. Step through. Squirrel. Solitary Confinement. Lunas. We will take another look. Look at this salamander. Look at this foily salamander. Wonderful. That's a good salamander. Oops. What do we got here? Snake Elf Scout. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield in your control, you investigate. Sacrifice X clues. Target opponent reveals top X cards of the library. You may put a non-land card and have an extra less from among them on the battlefield under your control. That player puts the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. That's an interesting one too. That's kind of cool. The big difference from this, certainly in comparison to, how about a full art Imperial Recruiter? That's cool. That is really cool. That is, as they would say, a chef's kiss. Okay, I'm done. That was terrible. One of the things that's kind of a clear difference maker here between Commander Master certainly is the fact that not only, you know, there are multicolored spells for certain in this set, but many of the creatures at the common and uncommon rate are not legendary. So that really does kind of eliminate some of the options. But we have a General Ferris that we can take a look here. Hexproof from multicolored, which is pretty cool. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, create a 4/4 red and white goblin artifact creature token. Now, this could be really cool if we wanted to do and go along the route of, again, kind of trying to go like a red-white artifact build. So that is pretty neat and pretty interesting as well. We'll have to look at. Again, it feels like white's going to be pretty good with some of the other rares that we opened. It feels like red's going to be pretty good. So it's kind of still the direction that I want to lean, and at least initially. There is some affinity here with some things like our companion that we can look at, and that could be kind of a neat way to put it together. Factory, there we go. You always want to find a few of the old fetchies, and that one might be one that we absolutely use as we had that conversation about colors. That's been the only one so far, so hopefully we can see just a few more of those. That is definitely one of the reasons to crack the set. Certainly good to have. How about a Voidwalker? Wow, this box has been awesome. This box has been really cool. And Necrogoyf. He's goyfing it up. And he's foil. All right. That is the middle third of the box. It's still pretty dang good. A Mesa, a couple recruiters. That was pretty nice overall. The other thing that's going to help an artifact build with this is going to be a lot of the artifact lands. We've got a disc. We've got a board wipe in any color, which is actually not bad. Hey, chat. Speaking of squirrels, my boy, Shatterfang, and a Foily Extruder. Very cool. Oh, Chatterfang. How I do love you. He is a legendary creature. I will not be using him. Although, he could be used black and green. That gives us some multicolored options for his colored identity. But I already have I already have a deck of him. Shambler. There's a Timeless Witness. How about a Wonder? That's a nice hit too. Very cool. Calibrated Blasts. A little flashback action. Wonder's actually a pretty nice hit. Good box. Really good box. Very happy. See if we can see any other cool rares in the back slot. Or mythics, maybe. Peaceful Restoration. Scourge Familiar. How about an Ignoble Hierarch? We definitely wanted to go some colors. That's a good one. It's another good hit. Very good. Very useful if we'd be in that color identity. Mana fixing there. A ramp action. Fire and ice. And the Dermo Taxi. And a foily Landscaper Kolos. Alright, getting down there. Not a ton of packs left here, but some good ones, hopefully. Oh, bottle gnomes. Ooh, that's cool. Shadow Slayer. He's an interesting one. When it enters, the number of loyalty counters on him for each of the number of lands you control. You surveil 2, exile target creature for 3. You can put an artifact card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I don't think we would extend to use Planeswalkers. He is a legendary Planeswalker, of course. Headliner, Squirrel Mob. Maybe we could do Chatterfang and the Progenitor Ooze, which has Storm. It isn't legendary if it's a token and it enters with a 1/1 counter for each other ooze you control. That's very cool, and he is legendary. Now, I don't think we would go along the route of picking a mono-colored. We wanted to bend the rules a little bit, or if you ever do this with maybe like a play group, that's certainly something that you can discuss and adjust. I am not going to take that option. Mental Journey. Got some good card draw here. Sudden Edict, the Ranger, Unmarked Grave. Search your library for a non-legendary card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. There really isn't. I don't know that I've seen any legendary non-rare creatures. How about Charmaw? 1 less to cast for each land your opponents control that could produce colorless. That's really kind of cool. And when it enters, you destroy target non-basic land. There's a little land hate there. How about a Master of Death? In some foily action. All right. What, 4 packs left here? In the box, closing things out. I think we got some good options. I have a pretty good sense of where I think I want to go already. Now, granted, we need to look at the rest of the pool. I won't jump to any conclusions by any means. But, as I've said, I think our red-white has been pretty good. How about a Territorial Kavu? Probably not. Probably not gonna be included in our build, Mr. Kavu, but you never know. Maybe I stumble across something. Maybe I see some line. Do we see some synergy here that could be really cool? The Oof. Altar of the Goyf. Agreed? Yes. Yes. Very nice. I will happily take a Verdant Catacombs. This one's a little dinged up at the bottom. It's okay. Very nice. Great pull. Really nice pull. Love to see them. You hope to get at least 2, 3, couple, at least a couple out of the box here. And this box so far has delivered. Last third's been a little more quiet, but the first 2 thirds were really good. Chance Encounter. And a Resurgent Belief. Yeah, it just feels like a red-white is really... That's going to be the lane we heavily look at here. Okay, last pack. Any last pack magic here? Anything amazing that we can pull? We hit some absolutely fire stuff. There. Oh, no, that's an enchantment creature, not a legendary creature. There's one. One of very, very few. gonna be honest with you. How about a liquid metal torque? How about an extruder? How about a Necrogoyf in retro frame to finish us off here? Okay, really quickly, I know that took just a minute because honestly we couldn't open some of the packs. Let's take a quick look at the rares. What do we got that make sure we didn't miss any legendary creatures, of course. Some good hits in here. Really cool. Good box. Very happy with that. Dragon. Good set of rares here. We'll take a look at the quote-unquote hits. This is the good stuff. Nice way to finish here with a Verdant Catacomb. Very happy about that. Shadow Slayer, Chatterfang, Mr. Voidwalker, and Irid Misa. Imperial Recruiter number 1, Imperial Recruiter number 2, the most famous Monkey Pirate, a Coffers, absolutely awesome, Esper Sentinel, Ultra Complete, and a Solitude. Great box. Very, very happy with that. And then our legendary creature options, again, assuming I didn't miss any in the common and uncommon slot, which we saw the 1. We have the Progenitor Ooze, General Ferris, which I think is a really good option. The Zoologist here could be also a pretty good option. Usury is interesting. I think there would be a fun build around with this, drawing a lot of cards, doing the coin flip thing. So that could be pretty cool. Sithis is also definitely an option, just with how many enchantments and enchantment creatures and different enchantment synergies there are. So definitely something that we'll take a look at. The Volatile here would be a lot of fun. Definitely opens up a good color synergy that we could look at, and I think would be pretty strong with the rest of the pulls. I don't know that I want an 8 CMC commander, though, so that one might be a little tough. And then the Glimmerwasp, which I do think is a very respectable option for us to take a look at. So we will break from here, and we'll get everything loaded up. We'll probably head over to Moxfield, and we'll see what we put together. All right, the packs have been cracked. Really, really good box. Let's get into the build here. As you can see, you know what my commander is, and you know what my colors are. To be honest with you, it was pretty interesting to take a look at this pool. I really think we had, I would say, one of really two good, strong directions. There's a few others that we could have went, but let me shout it out. So we did go with the Glimmerwasp here. Really, really cool. I am a huge, huge fan of modular and artifacts. I was a big Darksteel Mirrodin. That was probably one of the prime times that I played in my early childhood. So this has like a special seat in my heart. So anytime I can build around it, I really enjoy it. I also think this was just the most synergistic way to take a look at it. But again, I think there's a couple of options there. Let's take a look at the rest of the pool. It was pretty good overall. We had a really good kind of decent balance of colors, quite a bit that we could utilize, and just a ton of artifacts that ended up being really, really helpful. I think we would have had to be pretty artifact heavy, kind of regardless of what color combination we went into, and we didn't have, I don't think, any 3-color options for legendary creatures. So this gives us, again, really, really good synergy. If I could adjust this at all a little bit, there were some really solid cards in blue that I think would have helped this build. So if we had a different commander that could take a look there at red, white, and blue, I think would be really, really good. We had General Ferris as well. The problem with this ends up being is very, very few, very limited, actually, very limited multicolored spells that we could cast, especially for these two. I think we only had like maybe 1 or 2 other. We had Foundry Helix. I think that was about it. As we take a look at the color combos, yeah, that was it. So he gets relegated to the sideboard as well, just for the build. But we'll scroll down here. We'll take a look as well. A couple of the others. I think the other very legitimate potential way we could have went is Sithis here. We had a pretty decent amount of enchantments, some pretty good enchantments as well for the deck, some good enchantments that could be played that also are removal. I think the one weakness that this pool had is the fact that it did not have a ton of enchantment creatures specifically in those two colors. The good part about Sithis is 2 CMC Commander playing a bunch of enchantments. We would have been able to not only gain some life, but more importantly, the Commander being a card draw engine is a very, very big boon. And so I really think I almost went ahead and put one of these decks together. I think that was a very legitimate potential option as well. Taking a look at, and I'll just scroll through the rest of our legendary creatures here really quick. We didn't have a ton, interestingly enough. We really did not have a ton, and I thought that was interesting. We had Lannis here. Not the biggest fan of this. We could have made some clues. It's kind of like, okay, I'm not super interested in that, to be honest. We didn't have a ton of good bounce synergies. We had some powerful stuff in green. I think green was a pretty strong color for us. I talked about we could have went Chatterfang as well. I already have this deck. I actually had some good squirrel synergies. We had Chatterstorm, we had Chitterspitter here. We had a few others that would have been pretty interesting. But I shied away from that because we've already built it before. We did have Piru here. I can't run. I didn't want to run an 8 CMC Commander, especially because our ramp, while not terrible, is also not super good. So actually being able to play the Commander is kind of important. Now, this is an impactful one, certainly, but not necessarily the direction that I was thinking about going. Look at even a little Ravenous Squirrel in here. We could have did the squirrels thing for sure. Again, I think Sithis was a really, really good option. And we have Yusri as well, Fortune's Flame. Here's what's interesting. If we would have went this direction, I actually have some very good cards that play off of flipping. The problem is finding those cards. If we would have had a little bit more that could have made that more efficient and more consistent. We'll scroll up to red here, a couple of cards. Let's see, where is it? I don't even know if I played it. Chance Encounter being one of them. There's like ways to easy win, some interesting ways to go about it. I just didn't feel great on the card draw, and I didn't feel great on being able to fetch an actual win condition. So would have been interesting, could have potentially been pretty fun, but I think we went with just the most synergistic build here. So a couple of things that we're not playing. We're not playing Resurgent Belief. We're not playing Solitary Confinement. Not playing Flame Blitz or Gargadon. Don't really need that. We have a good stack here of cards over in our sideboard, some considerations. But let me swap over here and go by type so we can take a look to see how we're running. I ended up going 36 lands. The CMC for this deck is pretty good. I think the curve is pretty low comparatively as we take a look here. We're a nice even split. Make sure we have 100 here. Nice even split of mana, and then a whole bunch, quite a bit of colorless as well. So I feel like that kind of makes for this deck actually functioning decent. I would have liked, obviously, in an artifact build to utilize a little bit more of the artifact lands. We had a ton of them. We have a whole lot of them. The bridge, this bridge, this bridge, this bridge. We have all the bridges. So that was really, really nice. We could definitely use that if we could play off the artifact theme a little bit. We do have a power depot, which is kind of interesting. We also have some ways to move 1/1 counters. One of the kind of neat things as I was taking a look, putting the build together, is we have a lot of ways to generate counters and move counters, and we have some ways to get some low... we have actually a decent amount of recursion as well, so modular gets really good. So take a look back at the Glimmer Wasp here. It's modular 1. If a modular triggered ability would be put on one or more 1/1 counters on a creature, you put that plus 1 counters on that creature instead. So all of our modular creatures are going to continue to come in to be bigger. Modular lets you move those counters, so there's a pretty good opportunity here between sacrificing things, dying, chump blocking. We can actually build up some pretty big and resilient creatures, which is pretty cool. And I think we have lots of different ways to do that. We also have an option to just really go wide with the deck and move those counters around, use our artifacts pretty well. So that is pretty cool. We can kill our own artifacts, which is interesting if we want to move the modular counters around. And so again, we can kind of help to stack this up. and we have a little bit of recursion. I also like having a 1 CMC commander. I think that's pretty cool. And this thing can get flying, so there's a real world which we could just get aggressive, be hitting with the Glimmer Wasp a whole lot. It comes back pretty easy, and we're able to play it. So take a look at the creatures here. We have some really good set of Arcbounds. I don't know. I'd have to take a look back at the set list. I don't think we missed any Arcbounds, which is kind of cool. But there may be one that I'm not thinking about, at least in these colors. But we have the Javelineer. So it can throw some of its modular counters, which is nice. That actually really helps to bring up our suite of removal. When you think about kind of putting these into different groups and making sure that we have our vegetables covered, good amount of lands, we want a good amount of removal, we want a good amount of ramp as best as possible, we want plenty of interaction, and then obviously we want to have a good portion set up for our plan. With our synergies, we have our plan, I think, well covered as far as this build allows for, and we have a pretty good suite of removal as well. So that's just one of them. We have the Mauser, which also has lifelink, so pretty cool. We also, again, want to be keeping an eye out for these 1-cost creatures. You'll see here that becomes important later. We have the Prototype, which is cool. The Tracker, which is cool. First spell each turn, we can put another 1/1 counter. So this is something that, as we kind of ramp up, get some treasures, get some other ramp going, we're going to be able to utilize that, which is pretty neat. We have the Whelp, which is also cool. Some flyer, some evasion is good. We have the little Rootwalla. One of the other neat parts about this is, in red, a lot of our draw is discard related. So anything with Madness kind of took an extra step up, because a lot of times might be able to play a draw card spell, Madness this, then be able to play this for free, which is pretty neat. And we have just a few that run off of Storm. So in a really good Perfect Storm, that was a terrible joke. At a really good situation with the right blend of cards in our hand, we could actually have some pretty impactful plays with the deck, which is pretty cool. We got the Gnomies here, or the Golems rather. I made that mistake earlier to think these were the Gnomes. These were the Golems. Easy artifact for us to sacrifice. We have the Apprentice here. Really, really impactful artifact creature. So this enters, it creates a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. We can sacrifice it. That lets us to essentially draw a card, well, really exile a card, and we can play that card, so that's pretty nice. So if this does get targeted, or something gets targeted for removal, we can trigger this to get potentially a card draw off of it. We can also just use a bunch of artifacts, or at least some artifacts, to pump up and deal some additional damage by giving something +2/+0, so that's cool. We have the Capricomb as well, which I also really like. This is not modular, but it is Devour. So again, if any of our artifacts or something else plays in that we want to sacrifice those artifacts to, let's say there's like a targeted type of board wipe or something that is going to take out multiple of our creatures and their artifacts, we can use this to pump it to make it bigger, and then use those counters at a different point. We have the Ripley Vance here. Third spell, we put a 1/1 counter, then deal some damage. So another kind of synergistic, play a whole lot of cheap things, deal some damage, which is cool. Constable of the Realm is also really neat. This is taking really good advantage of moving our counters. So we're going to have some modular creatures out. We have a few things that let us move some counters. If we can throw some counters on the Constable, we're able to then exile some things, another form of really good removal. So I'm happy with that. Disciple of the Sun here. This is some recursion. When it enters, we return target permanent card value 3 or less from graveyard to your hand. That's nice. We have a lot of cheap creatures that fit into this, so that works out well. Dragon Drake Channeler is one of those where I was like, I could probably maybe throw this as a cut. We're going to pretty easily, I think, for the most part, maybe find Delirium, especially with our ability to loot, discard, draw. We're going to have artifacts. We have some enchantments as well that we can get into the graveyard. So this is okay here. As long as we have Delirium, it gets much better, certainly. More importantly, though, this is a form of just kind of fixing the top of the deck with Surveil. We got plenty of non-creature spells. If this is out early, this helps us set up our draws. Could be really good. And also get a few things into our graveyard that we can play into. Who doesn't want to play Esper Sentinel, honestly, right? So that's cool. It's also an artifact creature, so modular counters can go on this. Then it gets really annoying. I don't know, it is what it is, but you got to play it, and it's very good, of course. Paragon's Patrol here can make an artifact a Thopter. by exiling. So this is a good chump blocker early. Give us a little bit of additional value later on. Flame Tongue Yearling, kind of same thing. Kicker, deal some damage. That's cool. Gorilla Shaman is an interesting one to help us destroy things. Non-creature artifact. That's cool. We can take out some opposing ramp. We can do some other kind of mean things with this, and another good 1-cost creature to utilize. Kieran's another one. If we, whenever another creature I control dies, put a 1/1 counter on this. This is one of those creatures that could very, very easily get very, very big. It's whenever another creature I control dies. So if I'm modulating and I'm moving things and I'm killing stuff, even I'm using the Glimmer Wasp to destroy my own artifacts, this thing can get very big, very scary, very quickly, which is pretty cool. We have the Imperial Recruiter. I threw the cool version in here that we did open. We got 2 of these. This just lets us find something. That's pretty neat. Not mad about that at all. And we'll certainly play that. We got the Knighted Mirror here, which I love the art on, by the way. But also, this thing can, kind of out of nowhere, get a little bit bigger, which is pretty cool. You can adapt at instant speed. So that can be pretty neat. Harbor Gargoyle was the one that I thought about, okay, maybe get rid of. But again, we want our creature count, our artifact creature count especially, to be pretty high. So we really do want to focus on that. We want to make sure that we have places where we can put the modular counters. So that's important. Milliken here is an interesting one, but this allows us to mill and ramp. And again, it's something that we can pitch later when we don't need it, or blow up if that is necessary. Another good use of modular counters that we can then pitch to remove things or ping some damage. We don't have any really good, like, true recursion type, do this a whole bunch, get a whole bunch back to then make use of this. But it is still kind of in a small space, a good utility. Scrappling, I really, really like. We're throwing some counters on this. Again, we can block with this chump, sacrifice it, put it on there. It's a 1-cost creature. Again, that's going to be important. Charma, I figure we'll at least potentially get some value off of this, and destroying it on basic land might be really helpful for us. It's just a good 4/4 flyer as well, so who doesn't like a big old dragon? Here's a little bit of a ramp with the Ornithopter of Paradise. We gotta play just the most infamous Monkey Pirate, right? We gotta dash in, we gotta make some treasure tokens if we can. That's pretty good, and yeah, that's cool. Slag Strider, we have just a few. One of the other things that if I was to tweak this at all, we definitely shift a lot of our creatures more towards affinity, because we're gonna have a ton of artifacts. So many artifact creatures, so many other artifacts that we're gonna be able to play. So this is a good one. We can sacrifice another artifact and throw a damage. So this is pretty interesting. Again, on our board wipe, if we have some mana, we can ping some things. We can ping some damage before. Or, again, if we need a few points to just push something over the edge, we can do that. And that's pretty neat. And again, should hopefully come down pretty cheap. Much, much cheaper than 7 for sure. Same thing with the Companion here. Kind of interesting. It has artifact land cycling. Probably not super helpful in this deck particularly. But if we are strapped for a land, we can do that. We're, of course, going to play the Solitude. Just a solid card. We have this interesting Camel. It has some counters. Doesn't untap if it has counters on it. But we can move the counters. So again, this is a really, really interesting one. And it's any target creature, which is also pretty cool. So again, Monoskelion, a couple of these others that can make good use, even Esper Sentinel, that can make good use of throwing some additional counters on. This thing can do it, so that is pretty neat. Raven Watcher, I just like this. Flying Vigilance and other non-token creatures are buffed and have Vigilance. That seems pretty good. Timeless Dragon, again, Plane Cycle, which can help us to fix if we need it to. More importantly, just solid 5/5 flying creature. And Eternalize. So this is something, if it doesn't get exiled, if it gets removed, goes to the graveyard, we get a little bit of graveyard recursion and some extra help out of this here. And then, of course, we need some graveyard hate for other people potentially doing that. And Crypt Keeper kind of fits all the things that we want. Got Vigilance. It's an artifact creature. We will take it. So really good suite of creatures here. Just a couple of sorceries. This is really going to either be recursion or some removal. So we've got Late to Dinner. We've got Piercing Rays, exile target tap creature. We do have Insurrection. This is one of the few Storm cards that I did keep in because, again, there is a world. This is for 5. There is a world that we could play some pretty cheap stuff. If we have some treasure tokens from Strike It Rich and we've kind of built this up a little bit, there's nothing saying we can't do this for 7, 8 mana potentially, and play those things as well and really storm off, making for some pretty interesting attacks and stealing some stuff. So that feels okay. We also have some ways to sacrifice other artifacts and things like that. So if there are other artifact creatures, we can steal them, sacrifice them, get some value out of it. So that is pretty cool. Strike it rich here, make some basically a ramp. Nothing crazy there, but it does have flashback, which is nice. Blacksmith skill fits perfectly in this deck. We're given hexproof, indestructible, and as an artifact creature, we get a little boost. So that's pretty nice. Break Ties here, just a good removal spell that we can reinforce if we want, and that helps us. Again, we're putting some 1/1 counters on some things. Chef's Kiss is an interesting one, just kind of a deflecting swat type effect. Probably not as efficient as that, but nice inclusion. Salvaging, again, discard draw. We're probably, if anywhere we're weak, it's on card draw. So nice, basically everything that I could have that is card draw related in these colors found its way in. Fast and Furious is just yet another one of those. Foundry Helix is really, really nice if we need to gain some life in a pinch and deal some damage. So that is cool. And again, we don't get impacted as much by sacrificing a permanent. Again, we're probably picking up or sacrificing something like a modular creature where we're going to move those counters anywhere. Lens Flare, excuse me. We've got Affinity, easy one. Mind Collapse, we could probably pitch a mountain at some point, so we'll throw some damage potentially. Unbound Potential is an interesting one because we can put 1/1 counters, or we could proliferate. I can say that word. We can also Entwine, so that is pretty neat, and we can get a whole bunch of value very, very quickly with this. Again, we have so much. Most of our creatures, or a lot of our creatures, are going to have 1/1 counters on them that I think this is one of the more impactful spells. And then Unholy Heat. That's pretty good. We'll stick to the enchantments here really quickly. Soul Snare seems pretty good. Cheap removal. Seal of Cleansing, same thing. This being an enchantment is also kind of interesting as well and can target artifacts or enchantments. So this maybe avoids a little bit of destruction or removal. This is just, again, I think a good removal piece. We need some ways to be able to take out, potentially really impactful artifacts or enchantments. Goblin Bombardment, here's a little bit of a setup for a combo, although not necessarily a very fast one, but one that can ping. I'm leaving in Goblin Bombardment. You could really consider removing this, but again, against a board wipe, this is impactful. Moving counters, we can do this at instant speed, so again, we can shift damage with the counters, especially modular, which I think is really, really important. That's one of the things, if you didn't play during the Mirrodin Darksteel days, being able to move and shift the combat power quickly was really important. So I wanted to make sure we had options for that. Excuse me, Goblin Bombardment gives us a good, with additionally giving us some extra little bonus here, and we have Abiding Grace. So if we're able to find both of these quickly, we can do that. And Abiding Grace is going to be great as well, because we can return target creature card with mana value 1 from my graveyard to the battlefield. You think about all of the impactful 1-costing creatures we have. We have the infamous monkey here. We have Scrapling. We have the Shaman, which again can be pretty good. Esper Sentinel. We have the Channeler. We have the Rootwalla. We have the Mauser. We have Javelineer. So we have some pretty good, I would say, some pretty good targets for this. Or we can just gain some life, and that's not bad either. So that feels pretty cool. Some neat kind of little synergy here, little, some pseudo combo pieces, if you will, which is pretty cool. And then we get to the artifacts. Again, one area we're probably short on some card draw. We're short on some ramp, although we have a few options for both of those. Altar of the Goyf is pretty interesting, just because this is card types among cards in all graveyards. So very likely something's get really big, and we're okay with this style of deck to attack alone. Barb Spike makes a thing. It's an artifact and equipment. Batterbone, same thing. I like the living weapons in the deck because it's creating the creatures. This is 1/1 Vigilance and Lifelink. It is a pretty hefty cost to equip for 5, but we played this for 2 early on, can punch in for some damage. Brainstone, card draw. That's really why it's here. Dermotaxi was another one I thought about removing, but since we are going to generally be going wide, we could actually probably use this pretty decently. and potentially make this something pretty impactful. So thought it would be an interesting include. It does fit into our artifact component. Kaldra Complete is just absolutely awesome. So obviously we have to get the 7 mana. Having something get +5/+5, first strike, trample, indestructible, haste, and when it deals combat damage to creature, you exile that creature. That seems pretty good. So that's a pretty impactful one. Lightning Spear is interesting because we can throw this. Liquid Metal Torque is also kind of interesting. Target non-land permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn. So there is some world in which Liquid Metal Torque out with Constable can be a little bit of a synergy thing with Modular if we can then end up destroying things. So that was kind of a cool little piece we were able to put together there. We've got the Nettlecyst, which could be super, super good because it's giving +1/+1 for each artifact or enchantment we control, and very, very reasonable rate as well. So playing this on 3, going into turn 4, we have a couple of other artifacts like our commander, like our land, and a handful of other things out. Something could be decently big at this point, representing some good damage. Could be our Glimmer Wasp here by itself, so that is pretty cool. We need some good, clear, across the board, destroy everything effects, and this is about our only one. So we'll play the disc. It is what it is. Underworld Cookbook here lets us return a creature from graveyard to your hand. That's pretty good. We could also create a food token. We can also use this if we want to pitch lands or do some things later on that could be helpful to create more artifacts. So I do think that is kind of helpful and important, and just some nice synergies there. So all in all, pretty good. We're going to run 36 lands here. We do have Power Depot, which is cool. We have the Factory as well, and we have the Arid Mesa and the Rustvale Bridge. Again, pretty good setup here for those. Additionally, just Plains and Mountains. I could see the deck being pretty interesting. It's got some neat synergies. I do feel like curve-wise, it would at least run. Does it have the top-end power to actually finish games is probably one of the big drawbacks. Again, if I was to make some tweaks here, we'd probably want a few more artifacts that can just help us to ramp up. Because we do have a couple of things, you know, we have some things where we want to be double or triple spelling in turns if we can. We'd really need to fix the card draw. We have a lot of very good targeted removal as well, but a couple of spells that could help to kind of clear the board when things got out of hand, or if we get on a back foot, I think would also be really helpful. I think this deck is actually relatively resilient for many of those things. So that is kind of important if we were to fix it up. But I think that's where we sit. We'll take a quick look at some sideboard cards here that I decided to keep out. Not playing the Curator. Battle Plan I considered, just because a lot of times I think what we're going to attack with is going to be kind of singular creatures. And again, combat power being important. Just didn't feel like a great fit, but I could see some swaps in here where potentially that makes it in. Blossoming Calm, not too interested in that. Calibrated Blast was another one. I was a little wary of this, again, just because we do have good targeted removal already. I didn't feel like we needed this, and there's going to be probably too many options where this is just 1 damage, and that doesn't feel great. So kind of decided to keep that out. Chance Encounter, again, there is a world in which in a different build we're flipping a lot of coins. It's not this one. Extruder was another one. This one realistically probably should be in the deck. I just didn't like the echo cost on this. It feels a little too restrictive, I guess. You are able to sacrifice other artifacts. It's not artifact creatures, and you can put a counter on target creature. So realistically, as I'm thinking about this even more, this probably should go in the deck. We just have to pay for the echo cost, which again, I'm not a fan of, but this ability is really good. This allows us to turn food potentially, or even some of these other things that may not be as useful at the moment, into 1/1 counters, putting them on something like the Constable. So really, this actually probably should be in the main deck, and we'll find something to move from it as we take a look at it. Discarding a card, do 2 damage. This is realistically something we could play as well. Again, I just felt like we had too much good targeted removal. Galvanic Relay is an interesting one. Because again, we have the option to storm. We just don't have the option of making a ton of additional mana. If we had a much better like treasure token generator or something like that, this could potentially in this deck be fantastic. I just don't think we're there. And again, we don't have a ton of ramp just with the artifacts that we have. General Ferris, I talked about him earlier. He's cool. I just don't have multicolored spells to make use of playing him. So, Enforcer, I think was too much. Trap Runner, again, flipping coins, we're not doing that. Zealot, just a reach. Delirium, not too super interested. Karmic Guide was some recursion that I thought about. Again, the echo cost felt a little too restrictive, but again, I could see this potentially coming in. It is pretty impactful when it enters. You can return, so that is kind of good, and we do want options to be able to do that. We have the Landscaper here, nothing special. Mog Salvage was another thing that I thought about playing. We meet the mountain side of this, and island side probably pretty easy as well. Destroying an artifact for free is pretty good, but we had a couple of other options. I could see maybe Mog Salvage replacing something like, not even really Seal of Cleansing. I think Seal of Cleansing is just better. Pay this for 2, it's on the battlefield, and then we can crack this whenever we need to, as compared to this. Plus, this hits both enchantments and artifacts, so I was okay with the cut. Manticore, same thing here. Prismatic Ending, very, very good, but we're just generating 2 colors of mana for this, so I could see this slotting in. Yeah, maybe, potentially, but we're just in a 3-color deck. This is much, much better. 2-color, not really. Revolutionist, we can pull this back, instant or sorcery from graveyard to the hand. It's okay, but it's very expensive at 6. We can madness it for 4. Whatever, I'm all right. Sanctifier, pretty interesting. I just didn't want to exile all of my red cards in my graveyard, so we're gonna keep that out. Raptor was another one. This one again could go in, meets a lot of the criteria that we're looking for. Artifact, creature, it is flying, so it has some evasion. If we control 3 or more tokens, which we don't make a ton of tokens, but we make enough that maybe this is worthwhile, it becomes a 4/1 first striker, which is pretty good, and we can modular this over to throw some damage, move some counters, make this pretty impactful. So actually, this is probably back to being a good main deckable option as well. Scour the Desert, I'm okay with this. Again, make some tokens. We don't have a ton of high toughness creatures. Reaver, Madness, but doesn't meet the other criteria. Skyblade Boon is an interesting one. +1/+1 flying, and we can return it. So sort of okay. Good card that we could pitch to some of our discard effects. If we had more of those to be able to draw and loot this away, I think this would be really, really good. Soul Migration, too expensive, again, in my opinion, but we could evoke it. But this is really want to lean into a go wide strategy, which I think is an option, but isn't one of the main plans here. Scoundrel, we could sacrifice things and flip coins. Again, if we wanted to go the flip coin route, we could. Lash Claw, and then we have the Zern Orb. Zern Orb would be interesting if we had more Storm options, because again, something you can just keep in your hand, play this for 0, increase your Storm count, and go from there. But we have so few options of that. You know, we are probably capable of sacrificing some lands and gaining some life, but that's just not necessarily where we want to be. So that's the deck. That's how it sets up. Let me know what you think. As always, trying to just put a functioning and fun Commander deck together under normal building restrictions. I really do think one of the only few things, the set was awesome. I love MH2. It's been one of my favorites to open over the years. This box was great. We had some really, really good hits. Double Imperial Recruiter. We had a couple of the lands. We had the Arid Mesa. We had, I think, Verdant Catacombs, which was really awesome. You know, a couple of coffers. We had some cool stuff. We had Upheaval, which is interestingly is banned in Commander, so I thought that was pretty interesting as well. I think really what limited this was just the amount of legendary creatures, honestly. Comparatively to Commander Masters, which we did last time, which if you haven't checked it out, go. That was a ton of fun and a great box as well. This was just limited by the options for legendary creatures. Now, again, if you're doing this, if you're having some fun, if you're deciding to do this with a play group, certainly those are limitations you could take off, especially with sets like this where you could open it up to anything multicolored potentially, or add an additional color. I think if we were going to do this, and if I was going to do this with a play group, I would open it up to add an additional color, because I think this deck actually gets a whole lot better if we take a look and sort by color here. Gets a whole lot better if we throw in blue. I really do think that. There's some additional ways to make some treasure tokens. Things like Ethereum Spinner is really good. We can investigate. We can make some tokens. So there's just some cool stuff here that I think we could do with this. Some Junkbinder. Interesting. This is obviously the wrong version of that. But some card draw here, which again, I think is really where the deck struggles a little bit. Blue would make this really, really good to be able to help out with that. So that was certainly an option. There's some really powerful green stuff we could be doing as well. So that is something that we could look at doing if we were doing this as a challenge with a play group and modifying maybe some of the rules of deck building restrictions. But that's where we landed, as always. And in the last one, let me know what you think. Let me know which direction you would have went, maybe what you would have put together. I'll take a quick scroll down here so you can see and take a look at some of the other things that were available. Lots of fun. I have been really enjoying doing this. I have another set that I think is also going to be maybe somewhere in the middle. I think it definitely has more multicolored. I believe it has more legendary cards in it, legendary creatures specifically. So we will look to do that here on the channel very, very soon. Really, really fun. Tons of fun. Lots of cool opens here. And yeah, this was just good. This was really good. I really recommend, if you haven't done anything like this, deck building restrictions, Commander certainly has its own, but this is a really, really fun something to do, something to consider putting together. And again, if you got a play group that you think would enjoy this, especially if you love Kraken packs. I love Kraken packs. I am a collector at heart, 100%. And I think this has been really, really neat. So again, let me know down below how you would have built this, what you would have put together, where you would have landed potentially. And yeah, let me know. Also, if you got any good ideas for sets, we're always open to different ideas. So thank you so much for stopping in, checking this out. I'll do the YouTube thing. Consider subscribing. We really do appreciate the support. We do a whole bunch of pack openings on the channel. Those go up every Wednesday. I'm not sure when this is going to go up. I'm recording this pre-Final Fantasy. I think it'll come out before then, but potentially it won't. So I'm eagerly awaiting that. We're going to have some of that on the channel. If it goes up after, you'll have seen it already. We do a whole bunch of MTG Arena content as well. I'm a big limited player, so sealed and drafts. So if you want to check that out, we have a lot of fun there. And we do some other stuff Magic the Gathering related, usually set reviews or prep for, maybe you're going to pre-releases, and we'll be jumping into a few other things as well. So hopefully you enjoyed. Again, consider subscribing. You want to join the Discord, jump over there. We have a Magic the Gathering channel, so you can chat it up in there. Show us any cool pack openings you've done or anything else like that. Comments down below are always appreciated, as well as likes. And yeah, close it out there. Hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next one. Peace.